Hello, my fellow chatterers and book lovers, and anyone else who's popped in because you are curious about what this is or you have got a bit lost. Welcome, everyone. I'm Chatty. This is my channel, Chatty the Mad Chatter, and I'm going to be chatting very madly to you about what I have been reading for the second part of May. So I wasn't sure exactly what books I was going to be talking about because I had several half-finished books that kind of fell into June, one of which being Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson. And I have decided that actually I am going to talk about Oathbringer in May, because even though I read Oathbringer for some of June as well, in May I did also read some of these 4 books and haven't finished them. So I feel it kind of balances each other out. Because otherwise it would just, my June would just be so messy, it would be ridiculous. So I've moved Oathbringer to talk to you about in May, even though I'm aware I didn't really finish it in May. I did read it in June. It doesn't really matter, no one actually cares, but I just wanted to clarify that. Anyway, hopefully that's the excessive waffle out of the way, and it will now just be rational book chat. On this channel, if you don't know, I do not edit my long videos. It is one continuous shot, so here we go. Clink, clink, clink. So, firstly, I do want to mention, because I haven't mentioned it yet, my amazing mum bought me this tripod, which obviously I can't show you because my phone as my camera is currently on said tripod. I have used it in a few videos, but have just been too mushy to be able to mention it properly. But it's very exciting being able to position a camera. It should not fall over this time. We should be finished with the falling over of the phone from various different things. I've balanced it on. It is secure. So I've been having quite a lot of time setting up the right angle. So hopefully it shouldn't be wonky. It should be pretty good. But massive thank you to my wonderful mum. Thank you so much for this tripod. It was for people who know Flying Tiger Copenhagen. That shop has lots of random stuff in it, and this was one of the random stuff, and so far it's been incredible. So incredibly reasonably priced. Well, actually very cheap tripod stand doing its job. Anyway, Waffle of Tripod is taking over. Let's get back to books. So I've got 4 books to talk to you about. I'm going to be talking to you about Keedie, which is a middle grade contemporary by Elle McNichol. I'm going to be talking about A Tempest of Tea by Hafsa Faisal, which is a YA fantasy. I'm going to be talking about an Audible book, which is Viva, Durant and the Secret of the Silver Buttons by Ashley St. Armand, which is a middle grade mystery. And I will, of course, be talking about my reread of the adult epic fantasy Oathbringer. I'm going to make this spoiler free in my talk of my reread. It is just going to be kind of my reactions. I'm not going to go too heavily into it. I am probably going to do a separate video where I talk about my experience and all my thoughts on my reread of Oathbringer, and go into a lot of what I'm looking forward to in Rhythm of War, because that is the book I have not read, and it's ridiculous I haven't read it. I have been hyped for so long, and it will be happening soon, and I'm very hyped and excited about Stormlight now. Yay! But firstly, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Keedie. Let's talk about Keedie. I adored this book. I buddy read this with Tiffany from Towering TBR, which was so wonderful. I love buddy reading books with Tiffany. What I really love as well is that I very much kind of just go with the flow of the story and kind of take things in. I'm like, yeah, sure, yeah, whatever, it's all amazing. And she's like, it's not necessarily realistic. She loved Keedie as well, but there were just certain things about the bullying that kind of went on that Tiffany was like, really? Do we completely think that all of that is realistic? And I'm just like, story schmory, it's fun. But I do appreciate that kind of inner voice of reason from Tiffany that kind of gives me another opinion on the story, but we both loved it. Definitely go and check out Tiffany's video. I'll link it here because she pulls out this beautiful quote from Keedie that I think is so important. Keedie is the prequel to A Kind of Spark, but you don't need to have read A Kind of Spark to read Keedie. You could read it the other way around if you wanted to. So in A Kind of Spark, Keedie is Addie's older she's got two older twin sisters. Keedie is autistic and her twin Nina is not. So Addie and Keedie have a very, like, Addie and Keedie's relationship is beautiful. I really, really love it. And we start seeing kind of like Addie as 6-year-old in this book and Keedie as, I want to say 14, I could be wrong, but she is a teenager, whereas she is at university in A Kind of Spark. So in this book we're starting to, we just basically hang out with Keedie and see Keedie in all the wonderful Keediness that she is. Keedie stands up for what she believes in. If she thinks something is wrong or incorrect, she will go out and say it, and she will make things happen. She will do things about it. She doesn't take things lying down. She's a very different character from Addie. And we get to see kind of how she is with her twin sister and how she is with Addie, and I love all of that stuff. We get to kind of understand what it's like to be autistic from Keedie's viewpoint. It is slightly different to Addie's viewpoint, which I think is brilliant. I love seeing two completely different characters and two completely different sort of ways of being neurodivergent. There's obviously a lot of stuff that they get the same, and you see that coming through, and you start seeing Keedie just really developing this relationship with Addie and just completely understanding what Addie needs at that moment, and it's beautiful. There is such a wonderful look at bullying in this book, and just also adults just not understanding what it's like to be a child, and what it's and just not really taking the time to try to fully unpick everyone's story and everyone's motivation and how we got to that point. I do think as a society we are getting much better at this, but it just highlights how important these stories are to remind ourselves to check our assumptions and not just jump into things. Elle McNichol's writing is incredible. She just absolutely sucks you in. You live and breathe these characters. I love this family, and you can just see all of the hurt within them. And I really found Nina fascinating. Nina as the neurotypical child in this family, and you could just completely clock what her relationship with Addie was and how certain things bothered her. And I found that really, really interesting. There's a lot of stuff that Nina does that is unacceptable, but there's also a lot of stuff that I think was missed, but is there for you to pick up as a reader, that Elle McNichol puts in there for you to kind of understand where Nina's coming from. And I love seeing the relationship between Nina and Keedie, and just it was just brilliant. Just hearing this story, hanging out with this family, I love it. I just love being in this world with these. And I have discovered that there is a BBC, I think it's BBC, yes, it's on iPlayer, BBC drama of A Kind of Spark, in a 6-point series of that, and then kind of a continuation. And this is supported by Elle McNichol, and she's involved in the creative process. I've seen the trailer of it and it looks amazing, so I will be watching that and enjoying it. But if you enjoy middle grade, if you want to read books about neurodivergent characters, please pick Keedie up. It is just incredible. I love it so much. There's one more thing I want to say. Yes, and I read this for the Spoonies Readathon. I think I'll go through my full Spoonie Readathon prompt bits when I do my stats video. Okay, next I'm going to talk about A Tempest of Tea by Hafsa Faisal. So this is another buzzy read, and I read this with Vadania and Cloe. So Cloe is from Phantom of the Pages, Vadania is from Vadania Silver Scribe, and we read fairy loot books together. Although this one, we've not all read it yet. Vadania is having a wonderful time at the moment in life and has more important things to be focusing on. So we will all catch up and continue at some other points, but I needed to keep reading, and I finished. But I had a nice chat with Cloe about what we thought about this book. I've really had a good time. This was a really fun, fast-paced read. It is set in it's a fantasy world with vampires, and it kind of has a sort of Victorian Edwardian vibe, and there is sort of these different countries, and there's country they're living in has invaded other countries, so there is colonialism at work in here as well. I, having finished it and enjoyed it, I then saw where people had gone in with unreal expectations from this book. This book is compared to a King Arthur retelling, Peaky Blinder influences. There is one aspect that I can see linking to the Arthur storyline. That is it. It is not an Arthur retelling at all. Don't go there. There isn't a Peaky Blinders like reference other than the fact our main character wears a cap that is like a Peaky Blinders cap, and they're sort of lower levels of society looked down on by the rich people, and they're doing a heist. Other than that, there is no, I would not compare them at all. So please don't go in expecting those things. Vampires are tolerated in the society, but very much kind of have their own place, and that is below kind of the ruling class. Our main character and her best, Arthie, there's the other Arthur link, Arthie and her best friend Jin, is he called Jin? I think he's called Jin, I can't remember now. I will find out. Yes, it was Jin. So these two best friends are, they run a coffee shop tea shop together, where they serve tea. And then at night time, we have a little bit of a speakeasy vibe, where it becomes a blood den and caters to giving blood to vampires. Very elegantly in the form of tea. Although there could be some kind of private rooms for feeding, but it's all done like wonderfully. I would have liked the pace to slow down a little bit, so we get to bask in these moments and really kind of see where these characters come from, appreciate the business. I also love a bit of an entrepreneur story. I don't know why. I really don't know why, but I do. So I would have liked to have kind of like seen a little bit more of the process and kind of what they do day to day, so we can understand what they're fighting for, because this is disapproved by those in authority, and they would love any excuse to shut it down. So they are very protective of what they do, and the blood den is illegal, so they have to hide that, and they're quite adept at doing that. There's a really fun relationship between Jin and Arthie. It's a really brother-sister, you know, sort of ride or die best mates, and I love that. They both have kind of, there are sort of subplots of potentials for Arthie and a romance for Jin, which I really enjoyed. Like, it was just fun banter for Arthie, and there was a very sweet kind of growing romance story with Jin and another character. I won't kind of go into any more details than that. We do have some vampire characters mentioned in here, and we have other characters with other backgrounds. Some are mysterious, some we get to know a little bit more about, but I enjoyed this kind of host of characters kind of coming together to do a heist. I enjoyed the found family aspect growing. There were some mysteries. There were some ways I started to feel a little bit angry about the plot. I was like, really, that's a little bit dramatic. But then the plot was fully explained to me, and then I was like, okay, I see what you did there. I appreciate that. I really enjoyed this. This was a great fun read for me. I enjoyed the only thing is I would like moments of pause and kind of taking time a bit more. There were just moments where I just wanted to just breathe with these characters a bit more. But other than that, I had a great time, and I can't wait to pick up the next book in the series, which will be for a while, but nice to have things to look forward to. I'm now going to talk about the audiobook that I read. So one of the books I felt I needed to pause was Lord of the Rings. So I got to nearly the end of the 5th book. So it's 2 books in Return of the King. So it's Return of the King that I'm reading. And I was just enjoying doing some immersion reading with this. So usually audiobooks I have and enjoy because I can wander around the house. But I think because I knew I really wanted to just appreciate Andy Serkis's amazing talents as a storyteller of this tale, I wanted to kind of also read the book at the same time, which meant I couldn't listen to it. So I needed another audiobook. I have got some free subscription. It was £1 for 3 months on Audible, which meant I then got to access the Andy Serkis story. But I'd spent my credit on that, which meant I was then looking for free books. And one of the free books that came up was an audio original, which means there is no physical book copy or e-copy. It is just Audible, I think. And that is Viva Durant and the Secret of the Silver Buttons. So this was narrated by Bahini Turpin, and I really enjoyed her narration. It's set in New Orleans, so you get all of those accents. It's the land of jazz. The author Ashley St. Armand is a musician. So she knows jazz, she enjoys jazz, and you have that love of it throughout. The book and the audio obviously gives you all of those musical notes and things within the story. Songs are a part of the story as well. Our protagonist, the way she remembers things is to make up a little rhyme. So I was having all these little jingles stuck in my head, which wasn't too terrible. There are worse ones. So this was really fun. There's just a couple of things that I didn't enjoy as much, but generally the mystery was fun. I enjoyed our protagonist Viva going off to kind of enjoy like doing things. It was interesting to see her relationship with her nan as well. Her grandpa she hadn't been back to stay with her nan after her grandpa had died, so it was a different kind of relationship, and her grandpa kind of was the fun to her nan's more stern approach. And it was just fun to see the relationship between them. I did generally in mystery books, I do enjoy there to be two people solving the mystery together, because I like seeing the relationships kind of as they bounce off each other. So Viva didn't really have anyone to bounce off with, because she was kind of doing it secretly because she didn't want to be stopped with what she was doing. And she kind of went on all sorts of ended up in different places and trying to do different things to get to the point. So whilst I enjoyed it, I felt I would have liked to have had a second person kind of in there. It is a series. I will most likely, if I'm still with Audible, listen to the next one, but if not, that's fine. It was a fun time, but I'm very happy to have just had one. I don't feel a great desire to kind of continue with the series, but if I can access them, I probably will, because it was fun. So there could be more of a duo rather than a singular detective in Viva as the series progresses. I don't know. Pardon me. There was one moment where I was kind of like, it makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable, but that's because I'm coming to it as an adult, and I often am kind of viewing these books as, rather than seeing it as a contemporary, I am very much viewing it as a parent, because that is what I am now. So when there's certain moments of choices in here, I'm like, no, this is making me feel uncomfortable. I don't like this. There was a risk that was taken, and luckily it paid off because it's a story, but the risk made me feel highly uncomfortable. I'll do a spoiler, so if you want to listen to this and you don't want a spoiler, please continue, use the timestamps wisely. So in her search for the silver buttons, Viva discovers that this is mystery of this family, and she kind of uncovers some of the relatives and the descendants, and one of them, where she thinks the silver buttons have gone, is a performer in a circus, and she used to also perform in parades, and she thinks that the silver buttons were sewn into the hemline of this dress that was worn in I think it was the 4th of July parade. Or was it the Mardi Gras parade? Mardi Gras. So she wanted to go track down this costume, and eventually she does track it down from this, it's like a vintage stall in this market. And I was thinking I'd just do a little tiny like unpick of the hem and just pop out one of the buttons, like if I had something secretly, and just kind of do that to check. But Viva is like, I need to buy the dress, this vintage dress that's a lot of money, to see if it's got these buttons in it. I was like, no, how are you going to do that, Viva? She's like, I've got my savings account. I'll go. She barters and she gets it. And I'm just like, no, this is making me uncomfortable. You're spending your savings on a whim. You don't want the dress. You want to know. You want to solve the mystery. What if the buttons are not there and you've just ended up spending all your savings on this dress? You can't take it back because you're claiming to be a fan. How's that going to work? So that made me uncomfortable. Fortunately, they were the silver buttons. However, that was such a big risk and it really made me feel uncomfortable. It's like, no, children, don't do this. Please don't do this, children. Anyway, that aside, it was a really fun time. It was really nice to kind of like be doing other things too whilst listening to this in my ear and, you know, humming all the tunes of the little rhymes. So it was a fun time. Which brings us on to what I was hoping to accomplish in May that I pretty much did, and that was finally reread Oathbringer, which is the biggest book ever. This book is 1,200 and something pages. 1,233 pages. I really got into this. So I was reading it beautifully in the chair, in the nice reading zone, because it's my hardback edition where I've got the nice cover from the Kraken. I'm not sure if they're still continuing it, making me a little bit worried. I hope they are. And it is the over the top of the US hardback. I do not enjoy the US hardback covers, but I love the naked hardback where they are in different colours and they have this embossed of the shard blade, which is the magical knights radiant swords of this magic system. And then you get beautiful artwork on the end pages of different heralds, which are kind of the historical ancient figures. They're not deities, but are nearly treated as such. Of an important historical figures within this world's kind of like magic lore. I'm not going to go into the synopsis of this because it's so big. Essentially, you follow three main characters and you get a different character's backstory in the different books as you go. So we got to Dalinar's backstory in this one, and I remembered certain aspects of it. I remembered certain aspects of the story, and then there were certain things I had completely forgotten. I'd definitely forgotten a few Cosmere crossovers. I'd definitely forgotten sort of the way certain things played out, but I had an amazing time, and it has got me so hyped for Rhythm of War. I was worried that I was going to be slightly burnt out by Sanderson, because not burnt out, just burnt. just burnt by Sanderson, because I read one of the secret projects and I read the Frugal Wizard's Guide to medieval England, and I did not enjoy that at all. And I struggled to get, even though I let time pass before I picked up Oathbringer, I struggled to kind of like not be thinking of that whilst I was reading this. And I was starting to see, like, I read Oathbringer in 2020, I think. So it's now 2024. So it's been 4 years since I read this book. And I had since read a lot more epic fantasy. And I know there were certain influences from other series, which I love, in here. And there were certain things where I was like hearing Sanderson's narrative voice and seeing the influences rather than being immersed in the story, and I didn't like it. And I felt it's because I was being critical, because I turned critical during Frugal Wizard. I was like, I want to be enjoying the story. But luckily, I got back into it. I got back into it in about part 3. I think there's a part in part 3 that I just feel uncomfortable with. It's nothing graphic. It's nothing terrible. It's just my own personal embarrassment, upsetting struggle that I find hard. And I was like, I don't want to read about that bit that's coming soon. So I think once I allowed myself to go, do you know what? You don't have to read that bit. You could just skip over it. That's fine. And I did. And it was fine. I allowed myself to then get into it really well and enjoy it, and just enjoy hanging out with these characters and the story and seeing the story grow and picking up all the extra bits that I didn't get to last time. So I just really had the best time whilst reading this. So I am going to do a video of my full thoughts and emotions and feelings and things with this one, because I think that will get me, again, super excited for Rhythm of War, which I think is going to be my main focus of July. Like, this was my main focus of May. that this was what I definitely wanted to have read in May, because it was its time. And July is going to be Readathon's time, and that makes me very happy. So there we go. Those are the rest of what I read in May. This is amazingly short for me. I feel very proud of myself. It's possibly because we're now nearly at the end of June and it's been a while and my brain is mush for various reasons. So struggling to hold on to thoughts. So that's probably why I have less to say than usual. Anyway, do let me know if you have thoughts on any of these books. Do they sound like your cup of tea? Have you got a very different reading taste to me? Are there other books that you have enjoyed reading? Are there any books that you think I would enjoy because of my enjoyment of some of these? Please do let me know in the comments, because you know I love a chat. And if you have got this far, then please give me a drop of blood for A Tempest of Tea. The emoji of the blood drop. Do that one. That'd be nice. So I can see that you're still here. And also, if you haven't already liked the video and you're still here, then there must have been something you enjoyed. So if you can just click that little thumb button, because that just feels really nice. And if you want to see more videos, if you've enjoyed the waffle and it's a bit more your vibe, why not subscribe? Click the subscribe button, because that's nice as well. Anyway, happy reading, everyone.